Welcome to Cranky Live Sports Talk, where passion meets action.
Hey sports fans, I am Cranky, and this is the Cranky Live Sports Talk, the podcast where we dive deep into the hottest topics, the biggest games, and the most controversial moments in sports.
Whether it's football, basketball, track and field, cricket, or soccer, we've got you covered with expert analysis, insider interviews, and unfiltered opinions.
Join me as I chat with the biggest names in sports, get exclusive insights and stories you won't hear anywhere else.
Cranky Live Sports Talk is where you can hear the real talk, the hard-hitting questions, and the hottest takes.
So, if you're a true sports fanatic, you don't want to miss out? Subscribe now to the Cranky Live Sports Talk on YouTube and hit that bell icon to never miss an episode.
Cranky Live Sports Talk, where sports come alive. Subscribe today.
Good evening. Thanks for being here. Those of you who are able to join me, I appreciate you being here. As you come into the chat, please hit the like button, share, and also subscribe. As I've talked about a number of times, I'm doing more socially conscious topics, and I'm glad you're able to join me to discuss some of those topics. Now, the last one I did was about Trump and Musk. Are they visionaries? Are they tyrants? Or what we call modern day fascists? Today, I'm talking about something which is closer to home because I am in New York City. And this is about Mayor Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City. Is Mayor Adams a traitor? And given recent events, did he sell out New York? So if you go back a little bit, we got to think about this story about Eric Adams is a story filled with corruption, political maneuvering, and frankly, a stunning betrayal of New York City's values. Many of you know New York City or New York is a sanctuary state, which means it provides a safe environment for everyone, including immigrants and even those who are illegal. And that's deemed to be something which New York values a lot, values itself being humane, and values an environment where people of different persuasion can come, interact, and get along really well. But more recently, in a really significant development, Daniel Sassoon, the acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, recently resigned following directives from the Department of Justice to dismiss a federal corruption case against New York City's mayor, Eric Adams. Now, granted, the Department of Justice is the organization that enforces and ensures that we're adhering to federal laws and penalizes those and take them to court and trial and prosecute them if they don't. Sassoon's departure underscores the mounting concerns regarding the Justice Department, its autonomy under the current Trump administration. In her resignation letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was the Attorney General for Florida, Sassoon expressed that the directive to drop the charge against Mayor Adams compromised her duties to prosecute federal crimes impartially. She emphasized that such a move was inconsistent with her obligation to pursue justice without fear or favor. And we'll jump to some of that because, as we know, our president is about favor and fear. Those two adjectives really describes him or how he operates. The Justice Department had previously indicted Mayor Adams on charges including bribery, fraud, and soliciting illegal foreign campaign contributions. The allegation centered on Adams purportedly accepting illicit donations and personal benefits in exchange for political favors. Adams has consistently denied these accusations, asserting that they are politically motivated. Why is it across the globe, whenever politicians are put under the microscope and brought to bear for illegal activities, they either say, I'll give you Jamaica, for example, they're bad mind, meaning they're envious, or they're saying the system is being weaponized. And they'll always deny system is being weaponized and it's unfair. And they're supposed to be the individuals who are upholding the law, in a lot of instances, or be given the public trust to carry out things on their behalf in an appropriate and lawful manner. But here's the twist. Eric Adams isn't just any everyday politician. He was once a law enforcement officer, an NYPD captain who built his career on crime fighting, justice, and accountability. And if you've been in New York as long as I have, you'll know Adams being advocating on behalf of especially minorities in the police department. And yet when he's faced with corruption charges, he turned to the very system he once swore to uphold. Cut a deal that saved himself. Well, I should say, it appears he cuts a deal to save himself at the expense of his city. And that's where I call him a traitor. Traitor is, if you want to look for it in the dictionary, look up Eric Adams. Now, what are the charges against Adams? Specifically, count 1, conspiracy to commit fraud. 2, wire fraud. 3 and 4, solicitation of contribution by a foreign national. And 5, bribery. So if you go back to Eric Adams and the campaign scandal, federal investigators had been looking into Adams for months. The allegations that he took over 100,000 in illegal donations, primarily from Turkish nationals, in exchange for political favors. This included expediting the approval of a high-risk or a high-rise Turkish consulate, high-rise Turkish consulate in Manhattan, skipping essential safety inspections, and reportedly strong-arming city officials to make it happen. We know who the epitome of strong arming is, and he sits in the White House. And that's not all. Adams was also accused of creating fraudulent documents and instructing his associates to destroy evidence and mislead federal investigators. I think when you're under this kind of pressure, the worst thing you can do is try to falsify documents, because it only exacerbates your situation. Just when it looked like Adams was finished, the Department of Justice suddenly, inexplicably, dropped all charges. And almost immediately afterwards, his administration reversed course on ICE, which is the individuals who pursue those who are here illegally, immigration-wise, and allowing them to freely operate in the city for the first time in years. Is this coincidence? I don't think so. Now let's touch upon the DOJ controversy and resignations. Let's touch upon those. Now, after the DOJ announced it was dropping all charges against Adams, multiple high-ranking officials inside Justice Department resigned in protest. I have 3 here in the slide. It's more than 6 currently, and it continues to grow. Sassoon, the acting U.S. Attorney General for the Southern District of New York, along with 5 of her senior colleagues, walked away from their position, citing concern of political interference. Think about that for a second. Career prosecutors, people who have built their reputations on going after corruption, suddenly resigning because they couldn't stomach what was happening. Can you imagine just having to resign because you're so fed up with the system? You may not have a fallback. You may not have a job lined up. You have mortgage to pay. You have kids probably in college or kids in high school. That's a tough decision to make. And yet you feel, from a conscience-wise, integrity-wise, And ethics-wise, you have no choice. You've been given no choice. These individuals who built their career on pursuing those who do wrongs are now put in a situation where their ethics, their integrity had to be compromised. And they made the decision to resign. And why? Because Donald Trump, yes, the man who built his brand on law and order, probably saying illegal law and order or lawlessness, has used his influence to protect Adams, who, by the way, is a Democratic mayor. In exchange for what? It seems like it's a policy of reversal that benefits Trump's anti-immigration base. Now, there's a good comparative here, a good comparative. Let's think about the timeline of events, and we go into the comparative. 2019, Adams took over as mayor of New York. Between 2019 and 2023, he criticized Trump's immigration policies. He deemed them to be inhumane. In 2024, in about in the fall, he faced federal corruption charges, which I outlined before. And then in 25, more recently, a few days ago, DOJ dropped the charges. And immediately, ICE returned to New York, rounding up people, locking up individuals, deporting them. And Adams' stance shifts, obviously, because he's being pardoned or charged on being dropped. I wouldn't say pardoned because he wasn't really convicted. Charges are being dropped against him with no clear explanation, except Bondi said the system is being weaponized and used against people like Adams. But he's a Democrat. I thought the weaponization only focused on Republicans in Democratic cities and Democratic states and Democratic environment. Now we have a good comparison, people. We have a good comparison. Senator Menendez from New Jersey. These are the two cases, both very similar. And I will show you the comparative in a minute. Menendez got 11 years in prison. Well, he's been convicted. He's not in prison yet. Adams' charges were dropped. Very similar crimes, and I walked through them. Menendez was accused of what? He's accused of taking bribes from foreign country, Egypt, using his political position for gain, accepting gold bars, luxury gifts, and cash in exchange for influence. All right? As you see listed here, bribery, acting as a foreign agent, obstruction of justice. That's Menendez. Found guilty on all charges, sentenced to 11 years. The DOJ came down hard on Menendez. They indicted him for bribe. They pushed for his resignation, and he faced a trial and conviction that was sent to prison for a very long time. He's not a young man. Now let's compare to Adams. Bribe and fraud. He accepted illegal campaign contributions and luxury perks from Turkey nationals, in exchange, as I mentioned before, for official acts. Was indicted in September. He also faced charges for soliciting, receiving contribution from foreign nationals, and violating campaign finance laws. And with all the things that he has done, his charges are being dropped. A point of note, which is really interesting, right? Menendez is not immediately heading to prison, and still has some potential outs. Obviously, you get a chance to appeal. It's due process. His promised appeal and specter of clemency from Trump, and his peer Menendez was going for that clemency during his remark outside the courthouse after his conviction by saying, President Trump is right. The process is political and it's corrupted to the core. So that's a hint to Trump to help him out. Now, I find that really interesting, actually, because Menendez has recently just beat some charges before that, not long before that. So apparently he kept on doing what he was doing because he got away with it before. Now let's talk about Trump a little bit as it relates to this. His playbook is about political control. So what did he get in return? If you look at the aftermath of all of this, within days of Adams getting off the hook, New York City went from a sanctuary state to a hunting ground for ICE. Under Adams, New York had previously resisted a cooperation and federal immigration enforcement. If you think about the states, the blue states that fight against Trump, I think California and New York are the lead that fight. But now ICE agents are conducting raids in Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx, rounding up undocumented immigrants in record numbers. So ask yourself, if Adams didn't make a deal for the charge to be dropped, why would this suddenly ICE be here all over the place? Here's the most likely scenario. Trump flexed his influence with the DOJ, got the charge against Adams dropped, and in return, Adams had to give Trump base a political victory, which is allowing ICE to do whatever they want to do in the city. This isn't just about immigration. You got to think about that. Knowing Trump, this is about power. Trump used Adams' vulnerability to force the city to align with his political agenda. And Adams, like some people would do, chose his survival instinct and his survival over his principles. He's a sellout. And you know Trump punished disloyalty. So the rewards were Adams got his case dropped. Trump got another subject because he's now king. And if Adams can flip, and we know in the USA, corruption is pervasive in a number of areas, especially in the political arena, and individuals get charged periodically. And if you are in a situation like in a blue state and you are mayor or any other significant political position and you get charged, you can make yourself available to Trump and be loyal to him and be subjected to him, and you get your charges dropped. It's amazing how that works. Now, what is New York's reaction? And you can see some of the pictures here, public backlash, protesters calling Adams a sellout. The question has been asked, can the DOJ be trusted? I think that's a rhetorical question, actually. Can the DOJ be trusted? On the Democrats, people said the DOJ was weaponized, especially against Trump. But Trump always have had issues before he went to politics. He was always skirting the law. He was always doing something which is subject to scrutiny. So you can understand what transpired. Him taking documents confidential from the White House and keeping them in Mar-a-Lago, of course, going to be pursued. Him grabbing women by the private parts or doing things inappropriate over his history, that's come back to haunt him. Of course, he's going to be pursued. But in this case, in Adams' case, where obviously he has not been convicted, so everybody requires due process, but where the evidence seems to be mounting, and him now the charges being dropped with no clear rationale for dropping the charges, I don't think New Yorkers are buying that. And the question is, will Adams survive politically? What do you think? Will he survive? Will he face political consequences? And will other politicians follow his suit? And can New York City fight back? Can anybody fight back, frankly? Can anybody truly fight back given the current situation? That was quick, hopefully easy to digest. Good evening, everyone. Ted Dexter, Wun, thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here. It's an interesting time that we live in the US. You hear Trump calls, and look, the Adams situation is disappointing because I've always praised the US for identifying corruption when they see it, and then after identifying the corruption, pursuing those and sent to jail. You got to think about this. I think Menendez case was in June and Adams was in September. Menendez being prosecuted already, gone through the process. Adams' case was coming up to be prosecuted, right? If you go back to Jamaica, for example, where this person in politics named Reed did something where he built a track at JC allegedly with governmental funds, that's before COVID. That case hasn't even been brought to bear yet. So I used to praise the US for really be focused on these things and making sure the process expeditious and get it done. And in this case, we're seeing a whole different construct. One was saying Trump made a lot of money by conning investors. By the way, the comments on this program and statements made are those in the chat and other guests. They're not necessarily the position of the host of the program. And make sure that's clear, because I hear you talking about a lot of suing happening nowadays. I'm not going to call anyone corrupt. I will use the word allegedly, so until you have proof, but it could be said that Trump did lose in civil court where he overstated the value of properties, which is deemed to be something illegal. So you could make some of those damning statements about him, right? But we have known what Trump have done over the years. A lot of it. A lot of bankrupt companies, a lot of his university where he had to pay a fine, his number of charges that he got convicted on in New York. It is clear that Trump have had issues throughout his tenure, throughout his life. And he's a privileged individual whose dad was a multi-millionaire, probably a billionaire, because he built all his houses in Brooklyn, and was very, very rich and gave Trump a very healthy inheritance. And is here to a big real estate empire. And actually, not many people respect his business acumen. Maybe his marketing skills, but not his investing skills, even though he purported himself to be a person who has the business acumen to do really well. And he says he's a billionaire, but Forbes and others are always challenging what his true net worth is, because braggadocio is part of his domain, right? But we're in an environment now where I feel like I'm living in an alternate world. And I think this Adam situation clearly demonstrates that. When you are going to dismiss charge against someone who has been charged, and when you see all those prosecutors resigning, so they therefore believe that they had a very strong case and what was done was inappropriate, I don't know where right and wrong starts. Like, it's really confusing people. When you see we talk a lot about in the US affirmative action, for example, which is giving preferential treatment to certain minorities, especially African Americans, in terms of a number of different areas, whether it's how you do contracts, how you do universities. To me, it's like giving them a chance for a history of segregation and discrimination, right? And we get pushback from most of the communities about this. And then we hear DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, under attack, which is mainly a more inclusive process to make sure everybody gets some drink of the water, not the same group dominates and do everything that they want to do and no one gets to participate. And yet, the same DEI construct and concept is being affected by Trump now in the government. The people he has in his cabinet are all people who supports him, all look like him, all of the same persuasion, and all are loyalists to him. The comments they make, the things they're doing are unprecedented, never been done before. Dodge, supposedly the Department of Government Efficiency, is Elon Musk being able to run wild, and the Republican in Congress and across the country are silent. And I always say this, the Democrats are weak and wimpish. There is no way Democrats could do that to the Republicans. They would lose their minds. The problem Democrats have, though, is all three branches of government are controlled by the conservatives, by the Republicans. If I can only call them conservatives, because they're new kind of conservatives. They're not the old conservative, which was small government, individual rights. No. They're the ones who are loyal to the king. They're subject to the king, King Trump. And can you imagine King Trump? He rules the world. He says what he wants. He does what he wants. He has no filter. No one checks. There are no checks and balances. Congress just signs off. He's let go all the January 6th rioters. And history is not going to be kind to the Republican Party. Just like history has not been kind to Hitler and his party. But here's the thing about Hitler. Everyone focused on Hitler as an individual and think everything was done just by Hitler. He had to be enabled by a population. No one individual just does what they want to do. It doesn't happen. They have to be enabled by people, and a lot of them. So the 49% of the people who voted for Trump, they enabled Trump. Now, I hear a number of them complaining that it's not what they voted for, including a lot of Hispanic. I don't feel sorry for anybody who voted for Trump. He told you who he was, we knew who he was, and he's carrying out what he wants. When we say, yep, we're marketing, basically, Trump is there for himself and does not care about the country. And here's the worst thing about this. So Football Guru is back. Says, how can anybody respect someone business smart when they have filed multiple bankruptcies and when no U.S. banks will lend him money and he go to Russia to invest? Yes, and there's a view that Putin has something on him. And that's why he's so close to Putin. That's why he always trying to, what they call in Jamaica, quote unquote, curry favor with Putin. And he has a relationship with him. And he's always admired strong men. He made complimentary comments about a lot of strong men, whether it's Putin, whether it's Orban, the Hungarian president. You see the president of Argentina now is in Trump's corner. The previous president of Brazil was the same way. They all want to emulate him. And he wants to run again for the presidency. Even though the Constitution only allow you to have 2 terms, they're now saying, well, what he could do is Vance could run under, shadow. Vance could win and then resign and Trump become president. So the Republicans are concocting all sort of ways to have him president. And this is all about race. And if you think otherwise, you out of your you-know-what mind. It's all about race. When you have someone who has espoused and shown is a disregard for minorities, not just black for minorities, period, but it's Arabs or blacks, don't like them. And you have individuals who are putting, the hands on the heart and showing the fascist sign like Musk. They're part of a whole team. They're brethren. And they don't want anything to do with people who are deemed to be minorities and deemed to be inferior. And when you guys are talking about racism, please go look up the definition of racism. Because we're using racism and prejudice in the same context, they're not. Blacks can't be racist by definition because we ain't got no power. We ain't got no influence over anybody else in the world, period. So you can't be racist in the purest form. And we didn't define racism. It was defined by those who come up with the Oxford Dictionary or the dictionary out there. You have to have influence. You have to have superiority. There has to be a sense of inferiority. We ain't have that, so we ain't racist. We may be prejudiced, may not like a certain race, and it's across all races, but we don't have the influence. We don't have the authority to be, quote unquote, racist in its purest form. So at the end of the day, where we are today is not a good situation. And you hear me on my channel always espousing the view that us as a people have to come together and work more as a collective. We are so divided, and the division is partly orchestrated, but we also engender that division. We can have our differences. We should have differences. We're not monolithic, but we also got to think about, especially things like economically, and especially in things like diaspora versus local. That crap needs to go out the window. It ain't helping nobody. Good evening, Jason Gooner. It's not helping anyone, and it's only hurting us. Because the other groups are together. Did you know in the late 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s, that a quarter of the population of Norway, working population of Norway, migrated to the US, right? And it helped the country because then wages raised for was there. It was a poor country in a much better place now, right? You didn't hear then or now. You had racism then, no racism. You had, I'm going to call classism then with Italians and Irish and those situations, and the British believing that they're the privileged ones in a sense. But you didn't have the situation we have now where you don't hear anyone going to Brighton Beach in Brooklyn, where Russians enclave is. You don't hear anyone going to Boston, which is an Irish enclave, and saying ICE is going there. ICE is only raiding minority communities. We have a lot of illegal individuals who are in Brighton Beach, I'm sure, and in Boston, I'm sure. A lot of Caucasians were illegal. If you look at the illegal population, there are about 11 million plus illegal individuals in the USA. 500,000, north of 500,000, or Mexican of about, of the 11 million, Mexico has about half. And then you have a lot of Latin Americans, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, and 500,000 Indians. I'm going to do a show on that, by the way. A lot of Jamaicans too. I'm going to do a show on that, so I won't give it too much away. I'm doing a show on the whole deportation and immigration. But the point I'm trying to make is this: people move and leave their country. Nobody wants to leave their country. Most people don't, actually. They want to live where they are. They're used to the environment. They're used to the food, the culture, the environment. They leave because of opportunities. They don't leave because, you know what? Oh, I don't like Jamaica. I'm going to leave Jamaica. When I first came to the U.S., I thought I was going to go back to Jamaica after a few years. I come here, get some education, make a little money, and go back home. Didn't work out that way. especially nowadays, Jamaica don't seem to know how to behave. A lot of Jamaicans, given the crime we see there. But part of the crime in Jamaica comes from the U.S. with their guns. Why isn't Trump? So he's trying to penalize and put tariffs on everyone because fentanyl comes into the U.S. Because of trade imbalance. Don't you realize that your guns are forcing immigration from Latin America and the Caribbean here? Haiti is about 125,000 people here, right? Can those people go back to Haiti when violence is rampant, when it's almost a failed state? So allowing someone like Adams off, I don't know how, and the church people, the hypocritical church. Let me just start some pato. I'm not telling me about no church people. I know why you not about no church. I don't love talk about church enough. I don't make church brainwashing. And I have family and friends who think I'm blasphemous when I say these things. Church is a nice organization. You know, like you have school and alumni, that's church to me. Sorry. That's what brainwash us, so we can't even think. We believe that we're going to believe we're going to inherit heaven when you're poor, and the rich man going to inherit the earth, and you're going to have everlasting milk and honey. I don't drink milk. I'm lactose intolerant. I drink no milk. But other nonsense. Not buying that nonsense. And the people who prosecute you and persecute you are the ones who are the most Christian people, and they use it when in the slave trade. And I'm going off on a tangent here to say this, which is we have to educate ourselves. We have to free Bob man said, free your mind. You have to free your mind. If your mind free, you can think more deductively, you can think more holistically, you can think better, you can think more strategically. If your mind is clogged, and if your mind is not clear, then you can always believe what around you is reality. Trump is changing that reality. We're in an alternate world where law doesn't matter. The rule of law doesn't matter. The rule of law is what he sets to be the rule of law. And he's being enabled by an entire set of people. There's silence in Congress. Silence in Congress. Some are laughing because they're in their sphere. They're in where they want to be. They're so happy to have a president who's going to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. He controls the government. He controls Congress. And just as important, he controls the Supreme Court. You hear cases being taken up with this is very funny, when he makes some of these decisions to fire federal workers and all. And you know what? I don't want to vote for him. If he fire him, I'm not feel no empathy for him. And I don't want to feel empathy and sympathy. I'm not feel no empathy. I don't know what you mean. So if he fires you, then you know what? That's what you wanted. He's doing, as I hear some of them says, he's doing what you elected him to do. Let me repeat that. He's doing what you elected him to do. That's what they all say. So if you're a Republican and he fires you, and I'm sure there are tons of Republicans in the federal branch, then that's what he's hired to do. Go find a job. I only feel sorry for those who didn't vote for him and getting fired. All right? I only feel sorry for those individuals. But it can't be okay. People, please hit the like button and the subscribe button while you're hearing the like and and share the video. It cannot be okay where a president is going to bully the world. He's telling the Palestinians to leave Gaza and they should go to Israel and Jordan, and they're going to run it like it's some kind of oasis. So you should just be kicked off. It's like telling Jamaicans, you got to leave Jamaica and go Cuba, which is close by, and we'll take care of the island because it's been destroyed. And I don't know how the other Arab countries allow this crap to happen, especially a place like Saudi Arabia, which is printing money. How does it allow that to happen? Where's your influence? You keep buying football players for a ridiculous number of money for you to take the money and try to influence the world like America does with USAID, which is now being canceled by Musk and Trump. So we have an unelected Musk, who's now a president, and we have a president who's on his throne, who's now a king. We have a president and a king. And the king is going to say Jamaica can't have China there. By the way, I did a show on that. I haven't sent it out yet, but I'm gonna publish it. It was too long. It was like 40-something minutes. So I have to cut it down on the whole Trump situation with Jamaica. I did a show on that. I did a video on that, I should say, but I haven't published a video yet. Really interesting. He's basically saying Panama Canal, China is influencing it. You can have it. And granted, America did build the Panama Canal and did give it to Panama as a gift, but Panama is a sovereign nation. He's having discussion with Putin about ending the war with Ukraine, but he's not having Zelensky in the conversation from Ukraine. He's telling Canada and Mexico that we're going, look, when you have trade imbalance, we're always going to have trade imbalance. It can't be perfect, right? You have trade imbalance with Canada, trade imbalance with Mexico, and Mexico is more vulnerable. And I keep saying this, people, and I said this the other day on another show I did for Jamaica. And the Jamaica politicians should listen up because they don't listen. They have something they call in business concentration risk, which is you do too much business with one entity, one individual, one company. When 50% of Jamaican GDP comes from remittances, which come from the US, come from tourism, which is mainly US, that's not good for Jamaica. That's awful. The prime minister and his government and all the politicians, the PMP win in summer, have to change that construct. Find other sources of revenue. Just like we talk about JFF and finding source of revenue, find other source of revenue. Because when that one company, that organization, that country decide that, you know what, we want to change things, what are you going to do? The country goes to you know what? That's not a good thing. Someone said Canada not backing down. They are backing down. They're backing down because they have a trade imbalance, right? Because the US is a very large economy and they can reposition, right? Colombia backed down. They weren't taking deportees and all of a sudden they are because Trump says, hey, we're going to put tariffs on your product. And when you put tariffs on somebody's product become more expensive, people look for alternatives. It's not that people won't buy your product, they're going to look for alternatives, which is cheaper alternatives. Now, the question is, if everybody says, no, we're not doing anything, then what do we do? Because you put tariffs on everything, the American consumer are going to feel the pain. Right? But what he will do is put tariffs on countries that he doesn't really care about or like, and especially the countries who are not Caucasian majority. One says, for me, the first thing to look for in a leader is them being a decent human being. In knowledge they lack, they have experts and advisors. Elected man with no empathy is crazy for me. Yeah, and I think, it's kind of funny because, and some people are not going to like me saying this. When I used to travel, and I go to UK, for example, and I talk to the man in the street, and I talk to the same man in the street in the US, I feel the man in the street, for example, in the UK is much more informed about what's happening in the world than the man in the US. Now, part of the reason may be the person in the US, when you're number one, for example, you're not necessarily looking behind you. You're probably more focused on your own individual situation and how you can enhance your environment, your financial situation, while people in other countries are probably viewing the world a little bit differently and are more understanding of what's transpiring across the globe. Sometimes not because people in America don't have any empathy or sympathy. They're just too busy in their day-to-day. It's a capitalist environment. It's about making the money. And that's what they focus on. So it is extremely disappointing, frankly, to see a leader being elected who has no empathy, who has no sympathy, who has no morality, who has no filter. I used to call him in his first term, and I use this term quite a bit sometimes, the ghetto president. That's like a ghetto president. There are certain things about a president you look for, certain decorum about a president, right? Certain acumen that the president has, how the president comport themselves, how they operate, how they engage, how they try to ensure that they're being an example and setting an example. The man demonstrates none of those attributes. So it's always amazing to me that he could be the leader of millions and millions and millions of people, and he's emulated by some other leaders. Some other leaders across the globe wannabe dictators. Leader of Argentina, previous leader of Brazil, the leader of Hungary, some of those countries with dictators. And now you see him and his cohorts embracing far-right movements, especially in countries like in Germany. And these are same concept, nationalists, loyalists. They somehow stifle dissent. It's the same construct about how you sort of view those individuals who are deemed to be far-right and more likely are fascists. It's a really interesting time. What we're seeing, a lot of Canadians are ready to fight and support their product for the next 4 years. Can't compare Canada to Colombia. Yeah, but is it 4 years, people? Is it 4 years? Now, to change the constitution for the U.S., to have him run again for president, and by the way, he's almost 80 years old, so it's not like he got a ton of time here. But to change the constitution, you need what? 2/3 majority, House and Senate. They don't have the 2/3 majority. But they'll come up with all sorts of ways to figure things out. They're going to come up with all creative ways to have him be president for life because he is the one, especially for individuals who are challenged and whose lives are not what they want to be, and those who want to be superior, and those who may not be doing well financially, but they want their privilege because of their race to be what brings them forward and help them to be to do better. They're going to want him. He's telling them what they want to hear. Yes, that's technique. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. I truly agree with that. Well, yes, Brian, they are feeling it, but they should feel it. I have no empathy and no sympathy for anybody who voted for him and complaining later. Sorry, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. The man is a boorish bully, but it's working. Because when you have the authorities doing things on your behalf like they're doing, like the Justice Department, weaponized. He talked about it being weaponized. Now it's being truly weaponized. Yes, it is. It is a true thing. But you would think, because not all Caucasian people are supremacists, not all of them are. We can't put everybody in the same basket, but a lot are actually, too many for that matter. And you ask yourself the question, why does anybody hate any other race? In fact, you could flip it and say, I can understand why some blacks may not like the majority here because of history of slavery. But we are only here for a very short period. And when you get more seasoned people, the younger ones won't think that way, but you realize it's short. Should we always try to maximize our potential? Doesn't the earth have enough resources so we all can live okay? I never understood that. It never makes sense to me. So Warren says, Cranky, who you blame the people who did not try to get straight 5,000 plus Jamaicans? So Cranky, who you blame the people who did not try to get 5,000? What does that mean, Warren? I'm not sure I fully understand. So we blame the people who did not try to get straight. Oh, okay. No, there's not 5,000 Jamaicans, Warren Webster. So I'm going to do a show on that. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. There's a lot of Jamaicans who are not straight. I don't think it's blame not getting straight. Here's the problem you run to when you come to the U.S. You can get straight through a number of ways. You come as a teenager. You're probably in New York and go through the process. You get a sponsor. You get a guardian. You get adopted. And if you're adopted, by the way, and you're under 21 years old, and your person is a citizen, you can probably get citizenship too, right? But so it's not that people don't try, or you can get married in various ways and get citizenship or get permanent stay. But it's how you go about doing it. It's hard to do it legally and even illegally, frankly. I'm not advocating anything to be done illegal, but it's hard to do any of this unless somebody sponsors you. And look, people are here. The first thing they should do is talk to an immigration attorney if they want to get straight, if they decide to stay here for a long period of time. But now things have changed, right? There's a lot of people talking about Form 407, which is where you may have a green card, you may stay out of the country for a while. Custom officer, you come in, they want to sign the form, which basically say you give up your right to be here permanently, especially if you're in the country for over a year. As the lawyers say, consult a lawyer, don't sign anything. Right? Yeah, football girl. It's not easily changed, but you never know what they're gonna come up with. Because I'm sure. Look, Project 2025 was real. I didn't read the whole thing. I started to read the cliff notes of Project 2025. But all they're doing is implementing Project 2025. It's a reengineering of the government. It's a reengineering of processes. It's basically a reengineering of the country. Period. And conservatives normally are fiscally responsible, right? They focus on a balanced budget. They focus on the individual, and they focus on less government intervention. We have the opposite of this. So the old conservatives are out the door, and it's a new regime, it's a new time. Right? Warren Estek said we have to show empathy towards people who are not documented. Of course we have to. Look, I feel very bad. I feel terrible when I see individuals who come here for a start and they get deported. Some get deported back to some countries where it's almost like a death sentence, right? It's almost like a death sentence, whether economically or otherwise, and literally. See, Jamaica it's not 5,000, by the way. Multiply that number by almost 20 or 19. As I say, I'm going to do a show on it, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But ain't going to be a lot of deportees back to Jamaica. I always wonder also, the people who are illegally here, don't you try to find some place to go? I mean, I know it's tough, but to go cool out for a while. I'll go to the red state, because in the red state, people, like if you go to school in Georgia, high school, you have to provide certain documentation, to show that you're here permanently. They have changed things down south, so you only have sanctuary in the blue states. If you go to California or New York or New Jersey, or maybe the state further west, like over there in Oregon and those places, but it's tough for people who are not straight. So I feel for them. And by the way, when you think about number of Jamaicans who are here, I think most of those people send back remittances to Jamaica. That's a big dent in Jamaica's population. Think about it. 125,000 Haitians. What, about 600,000 Guatemalans, and probably similar number for El Salvador? We're talking about more than 500,000 people from India. But India can absorb it. India is about 1.5. They have 500,000 illegal people here. That's not terrible for them. Big for Mexico. 5 million Mexicans are here illegally. So here's what's going to happen. So all those places in the U.S., those meat factories, those farms, because the farmers all vote for Trump, almost universal. They all vote for Trump. Where are they going to get workers from, people? First of all, there's the people coming as almost like indentured servants who come on these, what do you call them? The farm workers, like from the Caribbean. And then you have the illegals. They're the most, because ain't no American sitting here working for no XYZ an hour, and then they charge you all the money for facilities and lodging and all that and food, and you walk out with nothing. That ain't happening. So who's going to pick the oranges? Who's going to pluck the corn? How's that going to work? How is Trump going to subsidize those farmers? And then how are we going to eat? Are we going to all eat processed food? Well, yes, S-Technic says I should scratch off New York as a sanctuary city. Yes. Well, we're going to get rid of Adams and go back to being sanctuary. We're going to get rid of Adams. Ain't no way he's going to win the next election. You have to understand how New York works, people, when it comes to politics. In most of New York counties and areas, it's not an election process. The body they have, and I forgot what they call them, they select the nominees and you just vote for them. It ain't no, you know what, we have 2 nominees here, and we've gotten a lot of times, a lot of slates, only 1 candidate on there. Ain't no Republicans. I'm sure some place in California is probably like that. It's a very interesting season. It's not your traditional democracy you think about, the purest democracy. It's different. It's different. Dr. Dan says he's going to move to Jamaica. Dr. Dan? I don't know where Jamaica you'll move to, but Jamaica is not necessarily, it's an interesting place. I had a discussion with people, some friends of mine the other day. And he was talking about a friend of his who went back to Grenada, bring this nice mansion, entertain guests 24/7. And I'm like, and feel very safe, by the way. Everybody knows her. It's a small island, it's 100,000 people. And I said this the other day in my program, if Jamaica was a safer place to be, Jamaica would be in trouble in the context of so many of us would move back. I'm telling you. I know people now who have moved back and they go back and forth, right? They're citizens, go to Jamaica for 3-4 months. They have a house down there. They come back here for 3-4 months, especially during the winter season, almost like a Florida thing. Jamaica would be where snowbirds going. People live here, right? That's how it would be. Yes, one. And one, by the way, I lived in England. I think I left. Did I leave England right around Brexit time? And I can tell you this, people, when I was in England. So the Polish people, there are a lot of them in England. And when they come, and I was at the house where we were doing some repair work, what the English person who's English and born in England charge you is like 1/3 what the Polish person charged you, and they were better. The quality of work was better. And that's what was killing some of the people in England, Frank, as far as I'm concerned. Because I work with some of them. One came and do some work, and work was shabby. There's some Polish guy, they come in, 6-7 of them, work done no time, much less price, better quality. So Brexit now was almost like a way of maintaining the status quo, which is England only for English. And England don't realize that it's no longer a superpower. It's the same concept here. It's only want to be America. No, it's not America only for Americans. It's America for the elitists, America for the Americans, and America for the Caucasians. That's how it is. Everyone else, stay out. Whether you're Indians, whether you're Pakistanis, whether you're Asians, whether you're blacks, whatever you are, Hispanic, stay out. We only want Caucasians here. And maybe we'll take some who are elite and some elite skills because we need to leverage our skills. Sound like the Mexican better work. Yeah, Mexico is in a tough spot, right? Mexico in a very tough spot. Because you know how much remittances those individuals who come send back? Jamaica send back, we send back what? 3 billion to Jamaica annually? 3 billion plus? Varies between COVID and now it varies, but an average of probably about 3 billion. That's basically saying if you have 1 million Jamaicans here, each person sending back about $3,000 on average. That's a lot of money. That's huge for the economy. That 3 billion becomes 9, 10 billion because the money gets circulated in the environment. You don't send the money to Jamaica and they sit on their mattress or in the bank. They're spending that money, it gets circulated in the environment. So resources have been reallocated. That's important, but we're too dependent on America. All right? That's what Don say. If I get a private practice and charge all cash. All right, Dr. Don, I remember this too. The U.S. tax you on your worldwide income. They don't tax you. Unlike a lot of countries, it's probably one of the few countries who does that actually. It taxes you on your worldwide income. So you can't run, not state, but federal tax. If you don't live in the country, unless you have properties here or some income you generate in the state, you still get taxed on it. But if you go to Jamaica, you still got to pay U.S. taxes. So I understand what you're saying, charge all cash. Cranky, most snowbirds not traveling this year from Canada. So what about the invention of Trump to the... Well, the thing about this, the South African is, and I said this the other day also on the show that I did, which is this. If you grew up the time I did and think about South African apartheid, I don't hear the West losing its mind about fixing apartheid. Yes, South Africa at one point got banned for a lot of things and in sports and all that. But they weren't trying to force the South Africans out. So now South Africa is really looking at itself and saying, what should we do about the land situation? Because you know, when the Afrikaners took over South Africa, the blacks were 80% of the population. What's South Africa, about 60-something million? They were 80% of the population. The whites took 87% of the land and gave the blacks 30% of their own land. Now it's about 50-50, with farming is about 70%. So I ask the question, so when you took my land 50 years ago, I should just say now, oh, you know what? Everything is fine. You have the land, you took it, and fine. We should just all do what we do. That's what Trump is losing mind about. And that's what Musk is losing mind, because Musk is South African. So we don't go back to history, because history doesn't matter. History only matters when it affects you. As if the Haitians didn't have to pay reparation to France, even though they were the slaves. Right? And now Trump want to pay reparations to South Africans for some land that they took. And he also wants to sign some decree which basically said they can come to the U.S. when they want to. Are they Caucasians? And you know, black South Africans being invited to come to the U.S.? Yes, between remittance and tourism is about 50%, which is damning actually, because most of this is from the U.S., which is not good. People think that's good. That's not good. That needs to change. Because if the U.S. sneezes and Jamaica catch a flu, they catch a bad cold. In fact, they don't catch a cold. They're probably on their deathbed. Right? Of course, because they probably divide them. Of course they divided. There's some people there say, you know what? Just take back the land. And there's some who are saying you can't do that. My view is something has to give. You can't maintain the status quo. You can't take people's land and then tell them to go get over it and move on. Just like we see happening in the Middle East. And it's amazing, it's always consistent about who is doing the taking. You go look at who's doing the taking and who wants the status quo to maintain. When they come and take it, Israel wasn't in the Middle East the way it is today. You go look at after World War II what transpired and what Britain did and what the US did. Right? So it's different how things are today, and people want to maintain the status quo because it suits them. When it doesn't suit them, they change it. Lee Young, I'm not sure about that, Lee Young. I gotta look that up. I'm not sure if you're really citizens, you gotta pay taxes. I don't think that's the case, actually. Because I think what happens is the guys who started Facebook, one of them, so Zuckerberg didn't start Facebook, you know. There are two other guys who had Zuckerberg do the coding for them, and Zuckerberg sort of took it away from them. One of them, obviously, they won some court case. They were twins. One of them gave him citizenship because he didn't pay taxes on the income, the gains that he has in links in Singapore. So, and I follow that case. So I'm not sure that's totally the case, but if you're a U.S. citizen, it is true. You have to pay tax on your worldwide income, regardless of where you live. In fact, when I moved to the UK for a while, I had to file 2 tax returns, one in the UK and one in the US actually. And they give you some credit though for whatever tax you pay in the country where you're at. You sort of pay the high of the 2 taxes. That's basically what it is. So I paid more in England because the UK charged you 45%. Well, my tax in the US was higher than my tax in the UK overall. But when you move to the UK, you're not paying any state tax unless you have like properties here. But you're paying 45% and anything over 150 in the UK or 149, whatever number it is. So you could end up paying more taxes in the UK versus the US. You get that credit back for US taxes. Nitro is saying, some white South Africans showed support for President Donald Trump on Saturday and gathered at the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria to claim that they are victim of racism by their own government. Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, the government does have power, so maybe you could call that racism in a sense. But I think South Africans got to think about the imbalance of power in that country. Who owns the wealth? And how do you get the wealth? I don't think people think about that. That's why affirmative action is such a distaste here. Because they're saying here it's not a meritocracy. How is Trump's cabinet a meritocracy? All the people in his cabinet are there because they like him and they're loyal to him and they do whatever the hell he tells them. Heck said it's not meritocracy. Bondi's not meritocracy. None is meritocracy. So the meritocracy only works when it suits you. But otherwise, you don't really care. And it's interesting that we have a non-cabinet member, a non-government employees, an employee who have huge government contract, who makes what I've said about $8 million a day from government contracts, is the one now charged with taking out waste out of the government. If you want to know about, so maybe I shouldn't complain about conflict in Jamaica. These kind of conflicts are much worse than what's in Jamaica. You hear me come from a conflict in the JFF with some people? This is not even conflict. This is worse. This is what you call corruption. It's not conflict, it's corruption. All right? It's amazing that this is allowed to happen. It's allowed to happen by the Republicans who are in Congress, by the Supreme Court, who's conservatives, who are conservatives, or majority conservatives, and by the general population who voted this man into power, knowing who he was. Warren Russell says, the people in Jamaica that have farms are hard to find. People in Jamaica that want to work are used to looking to them. Yeah, Jamaica. You know what happened, people? You know what happened, people? Which is interesting is that America has been good and bad for the Caribbean. Good in the sense that economically, it's a huge economy and we benefit economically from the US and the Caribbean receives some of that benefit. Bad in the context of you have brain drain in the Caribbean. Some of the best and most skilled people all migrate because they can make better income. And secondly, the amount of guns poured in the Caribbean from this region is amazing. So you have all the killings. When I was growing up, you could leave your door open. Now, you leave your door open, somebody gonna close it for you because you won't be there. It's amazing how that works. And it's challenging and difficult to see all of this, view all of this, and realize that people say we're in perilous time. Times have always been perilous. People don't say we're in perilous time. They had World War II and World War I and all sort of stuff that happens, right? Wars upon wars. It's always had this through history. But you wonder why, because I'm not sure. You know, if you look at the war in Ukraine, and the press is some of the worst people ever. So the way the press reports the war in Ukraine is only Russians getting killed. I saw a video the other day, and all I saw were Ukrainians dead in the video. Gross video, by the way. But the Western press writes of only Russians getting killed, and they send people get killed, and tons of Ukrainians getting killed. I don't think this is sustainable for Ukraine because the population is not that big to withstand all the losses they're having. They just said, do you know some countries have diaspora bond? Would you buy or sell for Jamaica? You only want to put your name against something which you're comfortable with. You saw the Usain Bolt situation with what happened with SSL. You want to make sure if you're going to get yourself involved, especially financially, that is something credible and that you're not putting yourself at risk. All right? I said, Cranky, you remember back in the days we would say conflicts and corruption in Jamaica, and they say not in America. No, we can't say that now as technique. And it's worse here, actually. What's happening is worse. The whole Adams situation just talked about, which him getting off because Trump, it appears, and allege that Trump is a tick for tack, which is you let me come to your city with ICE and raid and get supposed illegal immigrants out, and I will drop the charges. It's almost like, you know, when you have those situations where it's like a mob boss or the feds with whistleblowers, right? Or a witness, you know, in protection services. You give up on these people, you rat them out, and we'll be lenient for you. That's exactly what happened. You rat them out, and we're going to be lenient with you. So you rat out the illegal immigrants, you have the ICE coming, and we're going to drop the charge against you. That's what you do with criminals. That's exactly what you do with criminals. What do you think about Dodge? Look, there is government waste. There is no doubt about it. And I've been in companies, people, where a new CEO come in and they make a lot of changes. But they make sure when they're making the changes that things don't break. They don't just come in and say, no, I'm going to fire 5,000 people. They come in and say, okay, I think the company's overstaffed. Let's think about how we can reduce staff. Okay, we're going to give you some severance, like the US is doing for some federal workers. They'll tell each department, we're going to do it gradually. So say it's 20,000 people, and you say, well, you know what, we're going to get down to 12,000 people. So we'll get to 8,000. They'll say, you know what, let's do it over a 3-year period. And let's first go around and look at people who are not performing. If you're not performing, I used to work in companies where every year we lost about 5% of the people who are not performing. So you get rid of those 5%. And then you say, okay, what businesses should we get out of? When people get out of a business, all the employees get let go. So you know that's how they do it. And they say, you know what? Okay, let's cut the fat. So we have executed our plan, and we have gotten rid of those who think are not going to add value the way we want to, or we can maximize value from. Now let's think about who else is left. Are we optimally where we need to be? And if not, let's figure out a way to reduce that. They just went in and basically closed things down and just fired people. Because they made a decision. This is not a yesterday thing. Project 2025 covers all of this. They've made a decision about what they want to do. They know what they want to do. They don't care about no USA. They don't care about no hunger. They don't care about people dying of AIDS. They don't care about people not having medicines. And they don't care because most people are not Caucasian. Ain't no Caucasian country get no USA per se in that realm, apart from Israel. And Israel money is locked up, given AIPAC. Israel money is locked up. There's a Jewish organization, a billionaire organization that determines who win office and don't win office. AIPAC, that goes around spending money like crazy in Washington and influencing. Israel money is on the side. Israel probably got more money than in their country from the US over the last 40, 50 years. So at the end of the day, all the US aid is what we call soft influence, which is, you know what? I want to influence you. I want you to be on my side. I'm going to give you some money, so you obligate it to me. China is doing the same thing, except China is doing it more materially. I'm going to build you some port. China is doing it profit-oriented and sometimes don't to get influence. They go to Ethiopia and build a port and not charge. They go to Jamaica, build toll roads and get a 99-year lease and charge for whatever, right? The US is trying to counter that with USA. That's what they're trying to do. But the US don't necessarily help countries rebuild and build countries. They don't. And that's why people more focus on China, because China is giving you something very tangible which you need to help you generate income, and you also got to pay them. They've been doing it across the globe. Right? So it's really interesting how all this works. And it's very frustrating to sit there and watch sometimes how the smaller countries get manipulated and how the politicians in the smaller countries are about themselves and therefore they're not thinking about their people. And sometimes people go in politics with the right intention, the right perspective, they want to do the right thing. And they say, you know what? This system is broken. We can't change it. Say, you know what? I'll get mine. You'll get mine. That's what happened a lot of times. And it's very, very sad. Very, very sad. So this is a short show. I didn't mean to be here long. I am actually going to watch the game this evening between the... I don't normally watch the Jamaica U teams because, you know, I'm not a quota baby, and I hate quotas, so I normally stay away. But, you know, send them a chance to qualify the World Cup, so I may watch that game. Dr. Dan said, well, Cranky, nothing wrong with got to fit in where you can. Yeah, I guess. China is building ports everywhere. China is controlling how things flow into the country, out of the country. They're very strategic, by the way. They're not doing it because they're of euphemism. They're not doing it because of they're altruistic. They're doing it because it's profitable. They can outsource human capital because they're building a lot of these things. It's not the local population building it. They can build it. They can influence it. They probably can eavesdrop on them when they put their systems in. They can get access with their goods. Because Jamaica shouldn't be full of people. I bet 2-3 years from now, it's only Chinese cars in Jamaica. Let me say that again. I bet 2-3 years from now, it's only Chinese cars being driven in Jamaica. Unless the US stop it, by the way, by saying you can't buy any more Chinese car, which they probably can. You may not think they can, but they can. Because they always have something on every prime minister in Jamaica. That's why they want around do this time, resign. They always have something on them. And it's ready to pull out the card. As soon as things don't go them way, them say, call them up and say, you know what? I think you should resign because you've done X, Y, Z, and everybody know you're in trouble. As Techni said, this idiot fired the nuclear workers and want to hire them. Yeah, I read that today. They fired a bunch of nuclear workers, now want to hire them back, but they don't have their address. So they're sending out email to try to find. They just breaking things, and that's how they think. They don't think. Project 2025 was very comprehensive, but it's never been tried and tested. So in essence, things are gonna break. Warren says, question, do you feel uptight when you get pulled over by the cops? So I don't get pulled over by the cops anymore for some reason. When you get more seasoned, I guess they don't pull you over anymore. You're harmless. When I was younger, I used to get pulled over for driving while black. But what I found interesting, actually, is that if I'm driving, and this is interesting, people, if I'm driving and a cop is behind me, I pull over. Let me say that again. If I'm driving and a cop is behind me, I pull over and let them pass. For not even with the sirens on, I just pull over. Because I don't trust them. They'll make up stuff. So I'll pull over. When they pass me, that's when I keep on. I don't let cops drive behind me. Not having it. They're going to find something. You're going to say your headlight is broken when it's not broken. They're going to say your wheel is this, or you have license plates, or you're tinted. Also the excuses, because they're human beings and they do these things. And they don't have to be of a different race either. So yeah, I don't do that. Not just the Lehman Brothers watching me too. Yeah, for the bold situation, Brian Burke said, I thought I was the only one who does that. Yeah, Brian, I pull over, Brian, all the time. Yes, but see, China doesn't come under the guise that they have a conscience, right? Like the US used to promote themselves with this whole morality thing, which is we do things right. They're communist, XYZ. China doesn't care about your government. They're not even afraid of your crime and everything else. They're just profit oriented. They're not trying to impart the ideology on you. They're just thinking about the money and the profit that they can generate. The US tried to do that. So China will get more access because they're just trying to make money. They're trying to sell both their people and their resources. They're looking for markets to sell to. That's why I said Jamaica will be filled of Chinese cars. They're cheaper. They're just as good in a lot of instances. And they're probably easy to do business with. Stanton said, the cops only fear young black men as we get older, they leave us alone. Yeah, I used to get stopped driving a Taurus at one point. I was like, why are you stopping driving a Taurus? That was way back when, though. I'm dating myself, but I would be like, why are you stopping me? Yeah. I don't understand that. They stopped me for no. I remember one time a cop stopped me, and we had a big argument because I was like, why you stop? He couldn't give me a reason for stopping me, people. Couldn't give me a reason. Went around a circle. He couldn't tell me anything that make any sense to anybody. So why stopping me? Trade me for about half a mile, by the way. That's why when they go behind me, I pull over. Trade me for half a mile because you then have a consciousness about this going forward and a mindset, which is, you know what? I want to stay away from these individuals. They're just not good people. Now, I'm not saying all cops are bad because I have a very, very good friend who spent 20 years in the police department. I would tell him that too, and he would not disagree. They're just some bad cops. And the problem is too many of them are bad. Way too many. But they are people, right? And we treat cops as if they're sort of different class of citizens. No, they're like everybody else. Yes. Taurus. That's getting a long time ago. Like I moved from Taurus to a Lexus. That's what I moved from. When Lexus first come up, we get to one a long time ago. I was dying to get one. I save up all my money to get me one. Way back when. But no, I bought a Taurus by mistake. I was desperate for a car. I had a Camaro. Was desperate for a car. My Camaro transmission went. It was my first car. I bought it almost new. Save up money for a long time. Coming to buy a car on credit. And then I went to auction. A friend of mine messed me up and I bought this stupid Taurus. It was cheap, but then it wasn't the best car. So eventually I changed it. But no, the man, if you stop somebody in a Taurus, it's like stopping somebody to ride a bike. It's not a bike. Like stopping somebody to drive a, what was the old car from Russia name? The car, I'm kind of car there. Not good, not a good car. Only American car I've ever owned. I don't own an American car. Yes. It's a car impersonator. It's the only American car I ever have. I've never had one since. I think for the last 20 plus years, I've driven a Lexus actually. Because they don't break down. Except maybe the battery to go, that's it. They don't break down. It's like Toyota, Lexus, same brand, they don't break down. But anyway, I'm gonna close it down soon, people. I'm gonna say this actually, which is this. If you know anyone who may have some immigration challenges and you can give them guidance, tell them to go see a lawyer, figure out their situation. I don't want to tell anybody to do anything illegal here, but tell them to go see a lawyer. Right, to help them with their situation. Lada, yes, DC, Lada. Lada run long enough, but they're not good. They never have any luxury part. Lada and luxury are in two different states or two different countries or different parts of the globe. But so it's very disappointing to see that sometimes a lot of immigrants are anti-immigrants. They came here a while ago, and I had agreed that you can't have everybody come to your country legally because then you have chaos. But I don't hear anybody complaining about some of the persuasions coming here illegally. I never hear somebody complain about it. Menendez Trump came here illegally. And Trump says basically that those who got their green cards illegally and become citizens illegally, that should be revoked. Well, go revoke. My understanding that both Musk and Menendez Trump should be revoked then. But that will never happen. No, I don't drive BMWs. I have friends of mine who love BMWs. I don't drive BMWs. I always find the steering wheel a little bit tight anyway on BM. I rent them, but I don't drive them. No, I'm a Lexus person. People, if you never had a Lexus, try it. I'm going to electric cars eventually. Try the Lexus. Brilliant car in terms of longevity, in terms of comfort, in terms of reliability. Great car. Great car, actually. So I would say this before I go out, which is we're in a very, very tough time. It's very disheartening to see where the country is. It was once a great country. They say make America great again. No, the acronym should be MAWA, not MAGA. It is make America white again, not make America great again. That's not disputable. But I would have hoped that the country would have grown, mature, and realized that you're the best of who you are when you maximize the abilities of all your citizens, not just some of your citizens. And I never can understand the concept where people are trying to divide and conquer and denigrate and belittle and disparage and get rid of and trying to annihilate certain people who don't look like them. I never understood that. Now, some people have this superiority quality, which they believe that they're smarter than everybody else. They've contributed most to society. But when you disadvantage others, you don't give them an equal chance and opportunity, of course you're going to feel great about yourself. The NBA one time was mainly Caucasian. The NFL was mainly Caucasian. All these sports were mainly Caucasian at one point. Quarterbacks in the NFL, when I came to this country, only Warren Moon and Doug Williams were quarterback at one point. Warren Moon had to go to Canada. They said we're not smart enough to be quarterbacks. Wow, all of a sudden that's all changed. Most of the dominant quarterbacks are from another persuasion. What is woman saying? Them people make me say they put a lot of behind them times. I hear a lot of immigrants joining in and cussing. Yes, and some of those immigrants who wanted Trump, they're getting deported. How are you illegal and you're trying to support Trump? That means you're not too swift, are you? How can you be illegal and you're supporting Trump when the man say he wants to deport you? That means you're not that swift. You're not that swift. You can't be that swift. I don't buy American cars. No, because I cherish my money. I don't. People, let me just tell you something. A couple of things. One is I don't gamble. I work too hard for mine to gamble, to give to somebody else. I don't gamble. The only thing I would gamble, for example, if I was to gamble, it has to be where I think I have a good chance of winning. So, for example, if I'm playing a sport, which I think if I'm playing table tennis, I think I can beat my opponent, I would gamble. If I'm playing dominoes, I can beat you, I would gamble. But I ain't gambling on no horse race, but I don't know all the particulars that inform the horses. I ain't gambling on no football matches, but I don't know. No, I'm not doing that. Not doing that. I'm not doing that. Not happening. Work too hard for mine to give it away in a short period. That's people, they work all day and Friday they get paid, and then Saturday, Sunday they broke because they gambled off their money. How can that be okay? That actually makes zero sense. So I do think, and people realize that gambling can have a detrimental effect on the videos, and countries still support it because, especially in the UK, because all they think about is the income, nothing else. Do I miss Ed Koch? The man who used the word I recorded him one time. He said 55 times in a 5 minutes speech. Let me repeat that. He said the word AM or AM or whatever you want to spell He said X 50 sometimes. Now people use fillers, right? You have filler where you say a word or you're speaking and you want to catch yourself and make sure you're thinking before you speak. And so I guess was his filler, but it was bad. So it's hard then to even discern what he's saying because he used so much. But Koch wasn't necessarily a bad person. I don't think he was a bad person. And when we have how come black mayors in New York don't work out well? We had Dinkins way back when. Then we had a Crown Eye situation. The Jewish person the kid got killed and the Jewish person got killed. And then Dinkins obviously only spent 4 years. And then we have Adams who took off years later, after the Giulianis of the world and the Bloombergs of the world. And look, so he's ending up being charged by the DOJ, and Dinkins got put out because of some event that occurred. And the city is not majority black, but black is a huge part of the population. And we can't have a black mayor to serve their term in a normal, everyday way without crisis. Like, I don't understand that. And sometimes black people are the ones who put pressure on the elected persons. Because with Dinkins, they're the ones, because somebody got killed in an accident, frankly, people. It's an accident. And blacks basically ran Dinkins out of office in the reverse, which is they put so much pressure, they made the rest of the population upset. And obviously Dinkins didn't have a chance in hell. And Adams is about Adams. Adams has come across like the man of the people. Adams is about Adams. Very much so. So I close out this evening by saying this. I'm going to do a lot more Trump material because when Trump is in power, you just have materials. You feel like you do materials like 4 shows a day just on Trump. It was like that the first time. It's going to be even worse the second time. And Musk just add to the situation. So I'm going to do much more of these shows. I'm going to do much less sports, frankly. Much less football. I'm going to do much more of these shows because I enjoy these topics and talking about these things. And I think from a consciousness standpoint, we as a people need to realize that we are extremely divided, right? So if you're Jamaican, whether you're black, white, or green, doesn't matter, it's still Jamaican. Because you got to think about the country versus just the race sometimes, right? If you're white Jamaican, you're Jamaican. You're not American. Now, Trump may overlook you coming in because you look like him, but when he find out you're Jamaican, he's going to have a different perspective on this. Not the same how he treats like South Africa or treat people from Norway or whatever. So if you're Jamaican, people got to stick together. In fact, the Caribbean got to stick together, not just Jamaicans with Jamaicans. We have to change, the mindset of the change, and the guns got to go. Can you imagine all these Jamaicans going back to Jamaica with resources? They're not going back looking for handouts, They got money. They're going to buy a house. They're going to buy a car. They're going to generate economic activity. They're going to have businesses. They come to the U.S., did well. They'd go back and flush the island with money. And then can't go back because, you know what? They hear the story every day. This nurse got killed. This other person got killed. They went back home. It's not safe. They hear 3 murders a day, 1,000 something killed during the year. Police kill as much as the people who get killed. And they're like, I can't live like that. You know, the U.S. have its own crime, but it's not the same. You don't feel that unsafe. So somehow there has to be in which we change the dynamics in the country to then allow much more situation where people want to go back and live in peace, go enjoy good air, go enjoy good food, go to the beach, enjoy themselves, see blue water, not just dark water. You want that to happen. Yeah, but I'm not sure Bolt invested smartly. People keep saying even Bolt got his money stolen. You can't put your money in something like organization and people. Right? Both financial advisors are comparable. Because if you invest your money in an organization, first of all, They got to be insured. And if you look, like for example, in the USA, if you invest if you have a brokerage account, there's insurance around it. If you're in a bank, few $100,000 insurance you have for each individual depositor. So there is insurance around there. What's the SIPC for brokerage or the Fed for banks and all that? There is some kind of insurance. Now, if you have more than they're allotted amount, you may have some problems. But you got to make sure your money's in someplace safe. Or you know what? Just put some cash in the bank. Don't buy some real estate versus buying some stocks, and right? And as someone said, because I was watching this case, I should do a show on the case. I should do some research and do a show. But as someone was saying, I listened to some of the discussion and the argument. He was getting fictitious statement. That's not only Jamaica, people. We have fraud in the US just like Jamaica, even more so. Look at what's his name from Madoff. Look at Madoff. I'm sorry, not Madoff. Madoff. Way back when. My company I used to work at, they look at Madoff and say, you know what? Your returns are too high year after year. Nobody makes that amount of money. And they didn't invest with him. The company I used to work for, I went to the company. And we had discussion about this, right? We had discussion about play like Madoff, which is, why do you invest with them? Because what we do is we do post-mortem. When you work in certain companies, when things occur that are bad, you do what they call a post-mortem. You go in and assess, can this happen to us? And you do scenario analysis. And we used to do those things. And it was interesting where we found out that the asset management arm of the companies we work for, and I used to cover that business, they engage with Madoff, Bernie Madoff, and says, we can't invest with you, Madoff. First of all, your strategy is not clear to us. How you invest is not clear to us. The returns you get are not clear to us. And even though there were some accounts that were held at JP Morgan Chase, who had some culpability in some of this, it didn't make any sense. You have to do due diligence, get people who are in the know. And that's where the diaspora also comes in. The diaspora, people who have been exposed to these things as to what good looks like, that's part of the whole, they inform the environment. So when locals are anti-diaspora, I have to laugh. Like you send people away, they go learn to do things really well, and you tell them they can't come back. Or you know what? They have to be in the country 10 years before they get in the position. Whatever. What happened to both money might take? I don't have all the data and information that informs it. Everything I've heard from the public domain. So this is not conspiracy theory, and I have no facts on this. I'm just speculating. I think what happened is the lady who they say defalcated the funds or stole the funds, allegedly stole the funds. I know she's being convicted because I don't want to use the words she stole them and then it's allegedly. I'm gonna say allegedly stole the funds, and she's the one who's being prosecuted. It's hard for me to see her doing it by herself because I was doing some research on the case. It's hard to see me produce it. First of all, she has to have the capability to make those statements or those statements official because they send statements with the balances, right? So she has all those tools and those capability. Where's the official statement from the company? So if she was she intercepting a statement? First of all, your statements you send from a company, the person who's running your account can't get access to those statements, or they can access them, but the statements don't come from them. They come from an independent department. Did they look at all the departments that inform that company? Where's the processing department? Where's the investing department? Where is risk sitting? Where is compliance sitting? Where is audit sitting? Where is the president sitting? You got to know all the groups that inform a company to make sure your money is protected. You do due diligence, right? I'm not sure if that was done. I think there's more to the Bold case that meets the eye. It's typical Jamaica. I said that early in the program. The person Reed, who was at JC, right? And who allegedly built the track at JC with funds from governmental sources unaccounted for, has he gone through the court system yet? Huh? Has he gone through the court system yet? It's been like 5-6 years now. I mentioned earlier how Adams' thing got charged in September. Menendez got charged in July. Menendez' case is done. He's been convicted. Still got to go through appeals, I guess, and looking for Trump to pardon him or give him clemency. Adams got discharged, but the process here is going to take no years and years and years. You can appeal all you want. At some point, it comes to a end because it's taxpayer money is being cost. In Jamaica, people commit, most of the politicians who do things which are illicit and illegal, they ain't going to no jail. Somebody got paid off somewhere and get things work themselves out. So in Jamaica with SSL, somebody got paid. If the money that was stolen was what? $2 Was it what, 3 billion Jamaican? So a lot of money across the board, not only for Bolt, but a lot of money. Then where is the asset? What did the person do with the money? So here's the thing, people. If they're saying she took the money, then there's a money trail, right? Whatever she bought, whatever you spend the money with, you collect back from them. You have a money trail. You follow the money. You follow the money, people. You see, when I did a show on Brogard, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, and the Integrity Commission, and they followed the money. They brought an expert from overseas. They didn't say Jamaica, who followed the money. He had 28 bank accounts. It was more than 28 because they didn't count some of the companies that he managed, that he owns or was involved in. So you have over 28 bank accounts, right? They follow the money. Who's following the Bolt money? And why is Bolt not pushing to follow the money? Why is Bolt not pushing to get access then to have somebody, pay some auditors to go follow the money? She must have bought property. She just spend the money. What she's supposed to do with the money? It just disappear? That's nonsense. Somebody's not doing their job, people. The government should have been sending out auditors to go follow the money. And when you follow the money, you can find it. Yeah. Well, it's been a while now. If there is DC, it's been a while now. We haven't heard anything that make any sense. Because now when people steal money, people, they may buy new cars and new house. You take back everything from them. You will not recoup everything because they probably give some money to the family, but you let them show you the trail of how they spend the money. The money has to move to the financial system, because the money is in the system. There's a paper trail. That's how FIFA, the people in the West, the people of FIFA who got convicted of illicit money movement and payments and all that, and bribery in FIFA, were the ones who used the American banking system. You didn't hear anybody from Asia or Africa get prosecuted. It was the South Americans and the Caribbean individuals because they use the American banking system. They follow the money. Follow the money. They claim Bolt lost 12 million. That woman did not. Yeah, I mean, somebody is not telling the truth. And in Jamaica, a lot of elites are in the same community, right? They all know each other. They all hang out. They protect each other. I don't think that's this debatable. A lot of elites in Jamaica protect each other. They protect each other. So when something happens, they know. Even if she took 12 million people, she got to spend it someplace. Did she buy houses? Did she buy cars? Did she buy boats? Did she reinvest? Did she give it away? You follow the money. It's in the system. What Bolt should have done is said, look, talk to the Prime Minister and others in the government. Look, you guys going to do it? I do have to hire my own private investigators. Forensic, they call them sort of forensic specialists. Let them go do the work. I got to find my money. If it's 12 million, I thought to say it was 6 million. You guys saying 12, that was 6 million. You got to find my money. So I'm going to find my money because you guys can't find it. You go investigate. Give me access to our accounts and we go find it. You can find it. Yeah, you can follow the money trail. The money has to move to the system. There's always, when the money moves through the system, there's a trail, a long trail, people. Long trail. Money got to go in and go out. You got to debit and credit the accounts. In a complex. Somebody is protecting people. That's all I'll say. It appears that somebody's protecting people. I don't think it's just about, she took the money. When somebody take the money, there is assessment being done, audits being done to figure out how to use the money. Yes, Dr. Dunn, it has to be. And both handlers are not doing the best job either. Is that solvable, Michael? I mean, I think what a lot of companies do, and countries do, and I see Brazil does this actually. You know what they do? They actually take the U.S. construct and sort of reflect it in their own country and enhance it, right? So Brazil did that with their stock market and with their oversight authorities. We used to do some business in Brazil. They would take what the U.S. does and enhance what they do, put their own culture and stamp on it, and leverage it. And as someone mentioned before, it's about checks and balances. If I have market regulators, they have to be independent of the process. They have to have government, obviously, oversight. And it has to work in a way in which a system works for the people, not for just some people or certain people in the system. So the whole financial construct needs to change. But the problem you have in Jamaica is that it's so small, the conflicts are so pervasive, it's hard to have that independence. And that's why I find the U.S. interesting, what Trump is doing, because people got to understand the SEC, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission, a lot of the organization, even the Consumer Protection Board, a lot of these organizations you have that oversight and governance in the US, for example, they're independent bodies who make decisions based on what's best for the consumer or best for the investor. Mainly best for those, I would say, for retail, because sometimes institutions don't get the same benefit as retail. And they want to make sure you have fair market, so nobody's mistreated, people are treated fairly. I wouldn't say equally, but treated fairly. Jamaica has had to emulate those situations and have the same construct. So, yeah. DC said, to Bo's detriment, he's extremely loyal and patriotic. I think he's very aware of the criticism of the other prominent Americans always face. B call, I'm grateful. Well, you know, seem to worry about being associated with certain people. So, if Bo think about that. Can't lie. Investing got scammed when I was young. I knew we were doing it and convinced me. One brother I knew got in early and changed his life through it, but I almost lost. Yeah, that was a Ponzi scheme when if you go in early, you make a lot of money. If you don't, you know what happens. They're a Ponzi scheme. Somehow the Ponzi scheme sometimes, it's like a pyramid. It's going to break down. Only a small number of people make a lot of money in those situations. So, not surprising. Even the NHT is facing problems, not delivering so bad. Some people had funds returned to them. What does this mean for public? Yeah, NHT may be challenged, though. They may not have the resources. NHT has a laudable objective in terms of trying to get housing for people. But if too many people request to get loans and borrowings and support, they don't have the funding to do it. They just don't. So it's aspirational what they're doing, even though it's an actuality. It's in place. But NHT, I was listening to them the other day. Jamaica needs to build 15,000 homes a year, and they're building 12. That means you could add 3,000 to every number every year, and that's probably gets worse. Right? You should have 15,000 homes. You're only building 12, and frankly, in the 12 you're building, a lot of people can't afford it. They ain't making the money. The average compensation in Jamaica is what? About 8,000 US a year is the average salary. I thought it was 12. I was arguing with a friend of mine who's an attorney the other day. I thought it was 12. He's like, no, it's less than 12. We looked it up. It's about 8,000-9,000 a year. So in essence, how are you going to buy a house if you're making that average comp? How are you going to buy a house? Where? Well, where's a full coupe? That ain't happening. That ain't happening. Best says, both in part of doing money, pull up a scam and songs. You got the upper class scam. Yeah, I think both. Look, he's not going to be poor. He's still doing advertisement. He's still making money from other sources. But you have to make sure your money is institutions. But if you lose your money, you're going to get it back. Like, for example, I know he was involved in building a building in the middle of Kingston and all that. Things can go wrong in building a building, but that's a tangible asset you can touch and feel. Unless they find a way to get your title, it's your building, right? So you can rent it and generate rental income, you're good. Yeah, so Michael Sadler, I have a show in Singapore too. I already wrote up the presentation, because I like presentation format. I just haven't communicated yet. Kyle has been pushing me to do a show in Singapore and do a comparative with Jamaica, and I already finished it, but I was so busy I haven't gotten around to it. So as I said before, I did a show on Singapore. I did one on Trump saying people should get out of Jamaica. It's about 3 of them I've done, which I haven't published yet. But I probably will do a live show with the Singapore one, actually. I wrote it already. I got to revisit it. But what Singapore has done is Singapore got I think they got independence in 65, and Jamaica got 62, and the two countries are night and day. I would say this though, it seems like autocratic government, it sounds really bad, do better economically than democratic government. If you look at Singapore and China, some of these more countries, apart from things like North Korea who are just isolationists, you could always bring the Japan and the South Korea in as democratic countries, but some autocratic countries do really, really well, especially the ones who got independence in more later years, actually. And we are the ones who, look at China, when they started their rebirth, which was late 70s, and where they are now, it's like night and day. These said the average pensioner who invested and earned money in SSI, I feel more for them. Yeah. Why would you invest in people can understand, you can't put your money in a company where, first of all, you got to make sure, it's like you build a house and have no insurance. That's not smart. I hope you don't have any fire. That's not smart. right? You have to, and by the way, people, Singapore is a service country. It's not even a manufacturing country. You have to make sure you have insurance. So you can put your money in an organization. Like you put money in the bank, and this is like a Chase bank where if Chase fails, then the system fails as far as I'm concerned. Even though people say, well, Cranky, what about Bear Stearns? What about Lehman? Well, they were investment banks. They weren't a retail bank. Chase is a huge retail banking arm. They ain't failing. They can't afford to fail. That's why the government didn't make Citibank fail. Because Citibank really failed. They didn't make them fail. But they let Lehman and Bear fail to just send a message. Because they could have saved them. DC says, nations with an abundance in natural resources often have terrible governance. Singapore invested in education and healthcare. Yes, that's true, DC. If you look at Singapore, and I should do that show actually, STEM is a big thing for them, which they focus on the science, they focus on technology, they focus on engineering, and they focus on mathematics. It's a huge deal for them. If you look at their per capita income, and they're an autocratic government, and by the way, corruption is not tolerated. You go to jail fast too. Yeah, Rwanda is an interesting one. They're becoming warmongers nowadays versus just being autocratic, actually. I know a Jamaican, actually, who was the UN's sort of country rep for that country, actually. Spent a lot of time there. She spent a lot of time there. I've never been there. But yeah, I mean, Rwanda has had this problem, as you know, historically, given the ethnic cleansing that they did in that country. But they're in a much better place. And yeah, he's autocratic. No, I'm not carrying the game. I'm only going to watch the game. I'm not carrying the game. I'm only watching the game, people. I'm not carrying the Jamaica versus El Salvador game. I'm not doing a watch along for that game. I decided not to, actually. I don't do watch alongs for quota systems. I'm sorry. I just can't bring myself to it. I hope they win, by the way, and go to the World Cup. I like Freddie. I used to play football with Freddie. Freddie's the coach. Freddie's a great person, smart guy, good coach. So I want him to do well, and I know they have like 9 US-based players on the team, but they ain't got no English-based players on the team. And I know there's a bunch of them who probably would like to play for Jamaica. So, but anyway, that's just me. Yes, Rwanda hasn't reneged that, actually. I think there's some illegality to that in the UK. I think there's pushback in the UK about them taking all this. Just like how you hear Panama is doing now. You guys know Panama is taking in immigrants from other countries, deportees from other countries. And El Salvador has volunteered to do so. El Salvador, by the way, also have a dictator. Now, El Salvador's situation was drastic, whereby they used to have like 6,000 murders a year, which is 6 times what Jamaica has. They're now down to last year, they had 120-something murders. So going from 6,000 to 120, so they have about what? I did some calculation on that. I think they have about 0.3 murders per day nowadays, or something like that, versus they used to have, what was it? 20 a day average. And now they've cut that by about 40 times the number. More than that, actually. More than 40 times. I think it's about 50 sometimes the number. Jamaica have what? 50 per 100,000 people. So last year they had 1,000 something. And by the way, the Jamaica police kills about 1,000 people plus a year. And in the US, which kill a lot of people, it's less than 10 per 100,000. So it's a really interesting numbers, actually, when you think about them, and how these societies function. But El Salvador's situation is very, very drastic. It's draconian, man. You look at those jails, they build a 40,000 population type jail to house prisoners, and you can get arrested because you have some sign that looks like it's a gang. It may not be a gang sign. So don't put any tattoo on your body in El Salvador. But it's working for them. People, they got re-elected with 80% of the vote, so it's working. But what I'll say is this, which is we need to have more of these conversations, people. And you guys gotta help me grow this channel, because I'm thinking about giving up the football. You know, I've been saying that. I'm not doing a ton of football going forward. I can't stand my constant fight with the JFF. But I'm gonna do a show on football tomorrow, by the way. You should come watch the show tomorrow. I'll put out a thumbnail this evening or tomorrow. It's gonna be controversial. I'm gonna get a lot of flack and pushback. But you know I don't mind getting flack and pushback, so long as it's respectable. But I'm doing a show tomorrow on some football in the region, and should be an interesting thumbnail. You may beat some people out their thumbnail, but I've thought about it and I'm going to do it. But I'm going to talk about some things tomorrow in the footballing space. Maybe tomorrow evening. Hopefully by then, Jamaica has beaten El Salvador and they're going to the World Cup and are happy. So the JFF won't be mad at me as they normally would be because they're distracted. You got to go watch my show, Brian. I did a show on this. The way they address their murder rate is they just lock up a lot of people. They just took them off the street. So what they did was El Salvador, and some of them have come to the US, by the way, was inundated with gang problems. Just like Jamaica. It's gang. And people are getting killed crazy. If you read some stories in El Salvador, like, and they have it in Jamaica too, extortion was huge. Rape was huge, young girls. It was bad. So what he did, he was a mayor of, was it San Salvador? One of those cities. And he came into power. He's a young guy too. And what he did was he just locked up gang members without any due process, just locked them up. Okay, so you're in this gang. It's how we talk about gangs like One Man Gang and One Don Gang in Jamaica and all these other gangs. He just had the police go run them up and lock them up in these maximum security prisons and pack them in there like sardines. Go watch that. I did a show on that the other day. Go look at that show. I forgot what the name of the show was. I'm getting seasoned. But I did a show talking about some of that. Not necessarily, the show wasn't about that per se. In total. Is democracy? I think the show was about, is democracy dead or something like that. And I showed you him and his prison people. It's ghastly looking. They just lock up gang members. So if you're a gang person, have a sign, you have writing, you have tattoos, you go to jail. If they think you're in a gang, not even knowing a gang, you go to jail. They just take them off the street. So they have about 80,000 people in jail now. It's mass incarceration. And he got reelected with 80% of the votes because people feel safer. And people feel safe, the economy booms. And he got some in China to invest in some stadium there. Yeah. Singapore is authoritarian. Yeah, it's authoritarian. It's autocratic. It's autocratic, yeah. Same person running for God 100 years, but they're doing well financially. But the question is, would you want to live in that situation when you come from a democracy where you can say what you want to say? Some of those countries, you can't say what you want to say. And if you have corruption there, you go to jail. They weed out corruption. Because they believe corruption destroys a society. And here's what happened to places like Jamaica. People don't like me saying this. So if you see your neighbor doing something illegal and they're making profit from it, you're like, and I got to do that too. Or if your financial situation is dire, you're like, I got to do whatever I need to do to survive. So it then permeates the society, because if people in the elite are doing illegal things, then, and it seems to be acceptable, it's like Trump trying to normalize bad behavior in the US. It's the same concept. You normalize bad behavior. So you normalize weaponizing the DOJ. You normalize lying. You normalize taking things which are not yours. You normalize bad behavior. That's what's happening in Jamaica with corruption. And a lot of Jamaicans don't like to hear it. And I heard some policeman once threaten to either box me or somebody else because the guy says, somebody come to China and say somebody Jamaica corrupt. I'm not saying all of Jamaica are corrupt, but a lot of it is corrupt. A lot. I've seen it in front of my own eyes more than once, with police, with people in the society. Been there and seen it. So if you want to tell me I see it and that's not corrupt, then I'm going to tell you it's a small sample size. If I hear everybody else is saying it, like everybody else is saying it, not one or two people, a lot of people, I don't know what to tell you. Okay. Yeah, I did do a show on whether democracy is dead on my Balanced View channel, and El Salvador was part of the discussion. And I show you pictures, people. It's difficult to watch the prison and how they're stuffed in the prison like animals. And by the way, some of them probably will never leave that prison, and they haven't been tried. They haven't gone through the court system. But people feel safer. And people do drastic times, call for drastic measures. Now, think about it. If Jamaica do that, it'd be safer. The question is, do we want to live that way? But frankly, where you live now in Jamaica, Jamaica may have to go that route. Jamaica may have to go that route. It sounds strange saying that. It sounds terrible. Because you know what? We always have these humane societies across the world who are not experiencing these things, want to tell people how to live their life and how they should operate, government should operate. People don't have any safety. We have all these dons in Jamaica who control these neighborhoods, and they're not elected. What can I say? They're not elected. Yeah. No, 1-1. Then do 1-1. I think the way they are there, you gotta get rid of those tattoos. You better get rid of those tattoos. You're going to jail. You're a former gang member. As far as they're concerned, once a gang member, always a gang member. My understanding is that you have to get rid of those tattoos. So go find a way to get rid of them. Paint over them. Cut off your skin. I don't know what you do. Jamaica may have to go that route. The El Salvador route, a lot of countries in South America are now thinking about El Salvador route, Latin America. I know, I think, not Nicaragua, but I think it was Honduras who was trying to go that route, but it hasn't been as successful. Guatemala thing is stifling, though. It's stiflingly restrictive. I think countries like Peru and others were thinking about going that route because it's been effective. You know what people do? They copy, right? They copycat. Yes, El Salvador president is offering to take deportees from the U.S. Yeah. No, hey, if you can get somebody who is charming, who is charismatic, who is influential for the people, and they want to go that route, it'll work in Jamaica. They may have to have a lot of bodyguards for a while, because people go after them, but it'll work. If Jamaica did that, it'd be a much more prosperous country. If Jamaica decided, you know what? We're going to get rid of all these killers and guns in this country, and we're going to get rid of corruption, and it starts today. 5 years from now, Jamaica's a changed country. And we're going to take draconian measures to do so. Changed country. You and I will be thinking about, we're going to go back home because we want to be on the beach and want to be in the mountains looking down, get some cool breeze. We want bananas and yam that actually is not is manufactured, but it's not engineered. We want all these things, which is pure and organic. Things organic here, which is natural there. We want all of that. But people are not pushing for that. Yeah, Peru has had some challenges, DC. Not only they're just period. They killed their politicians, or the other day they had, not too long ago when they had the election, one of the guys who was in the media running for office got gunned down by the cartels, by the way, because those countries are all bordered, so drugs move across them freely. But no, if you're in the U.S., if you're a Trump supporter, and by the way, what happened to that guy, Donald? Isn't he Jamaican? The one from Florida, the congressman? Did he get a position in the Trump administration? He was out there stomping for Trump. I wonder if Trump did Trump give him a position? I'm curious. He was out there, the Trump fan, and doing this for Trump and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Hey, Tex Dexter, I just said it earlier in the program. They would not be able, Jamaica could not take all those people in. I'm telling you. If Jamaica was safer and people don't have to worry about their health, right? If not in their health per se, because health here, they can always come back to the US and get their treatment and go back home. Jamaica couldn't hold a lot of people to go back home. They couldn't. Because a lot of Jamaicans have come here and did really well. And speak about the ones who are retired, for example, or retiring, and who may have a little bit of resources. They get their checks from Uncle Sam or the companies they used to work for. The money's all being spread in Jamaica. $1 becomes $10. It's circulating. Economic activity is boosting. Jamaica is a great place. Great place. But not only Jamaica, the Caribbean in general. No, I would agree, Bert. The MS-13 and those gangs are different animals. Like, Jamaican gangs are bad, but these people they have no respect for life, actually. MS-13 is on Long Island here in New York and different parts of the U.S. And they're all getting deported eventually, though. Well, Trump always about black to run HUD, doesn't he? Didn't he have, what's his name? The surgeon, whatever his name was, ran the last time and didn't know what he was doing? Yes, I've heard about that, actually. That's the one position he gave us. And I heard, by the way, that, I got to look into this, that there may be some changes to the whole housing situation, actually. For HUD. He's Jamaican, but no, it was really seemed to be the only position. Yeah. Yeah, Donald didn't get in his spot. I guess he didn't kiss Trump, but you know what? Enough. Yeah, people like him are hard watch. Very, very hard watch. But anyway, people, let me close this down by saying this. I hope Jamaica, because I'm almost here almost 2 hours. I said I was going to be here for an hour. And it's an hour and 50 minutes. But I thank each of you for being here. I should appreciate people. Help me grow the channel, people. I'm not getting enough help from you, I'm not saying everybody. But I need help to grow the channel. because I don't want to do any social thing on my Cranky Live, but I get more views on Cranky Live. Because you guys got to go over to the Balanced View and hit like on Balanced View. I need to grow this channel because I have a lot of information I want to put out in general public. I spend a lot of time researching and trying to bring this information here. So I need your help to grow the channel, people, all right? Because the channel can't grow without you. Meaning not only you come and watch, but you invite others to come and watch, or you refer the channel to other individuals to subscribe and come and watch. Oh, okay. Well, a lot of Jamaicans went to Panama, so not shocking. Especially been the Panama Canal and subsequently. But anyway, let me say first of all, thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here. You can also go watch the other video I dropped the other day about Trump and Musk and are they tyrants, visionaries, or fascists. You should look at that one also. But support the channel, people. We want to grow it to be a go-to channel. And I have some other things I'm coming to in the next 2 months. I'm bringing to the platform. Not this platform, but to the social media space. So I would love your help and your assistance to move this channel, move up the numbers, help me grow this. All right, people? But I appreciate you being here. It's been a good conversation. And if you think there are topics you want me to discuss, for example, not just the Jamaican topics, because I know we're sort of Jamaican-centric. If there are things you want me to talk about on this channel, drop me a link in the chat and tell me what subjects you want me to cover, or you think may be of interest, and I will do so. All right? Thanks, Neil Young. I appreciate it. Drop me a link in the channel. Drop me a suggestion, and I think it's a topic that people would like and want to talk about, want to engage with. Do so. Secondly, before I go, I gotta have more calling, right? So I need each of you. I know some people don't like to talk, or they just like to be in the chat and not even talk. They just observe. But make the program interactive, people. Make it program interactive. I should put up the number this evening, but I didn't. I always put the number up going forward. Make it interactive. Make it interesting. Make it a go-to channel. All right. African brain. What is it? African brain drain. Brain drain is everywhere. All the blacks that go into the Western world. And it's not just the poor blacks. As I said before in the program, at one point, Norway sent a quarter of their working population to the US, and they were the best people in terms of intellectually. So it's almost they send the quarter of their working population who are the unskilled laborers to the US, which then helped the country in general. They kept their best people and send what Trump would call the worst people. Nobody was complaining then, but they're complaining now about people from other places looking for opportunities to come to the US. But anyway, I hope you guys watch the game this evening. Hey, Drew Ross, you can go back and watch it, Drew Ross. I hope you guys like the game this evening. Enjoy. Hope Jamaica qualify. And I will see you tomorrow because I'm going to, as I said before, I'm going to have a show tomorrow that talks about something I'm going to get beaten on. I'll drop the link either tomorrow morning or tonight or the thumbnail for the discussion. And come look to talk some good panel discussion, right? But have your friends and family subscribe to both Balanced View and and Cranky Live, and also like the video so others can watch it. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Peace out and enjoy the rest of the weekend. See you tomorrow. Cranky Live is the best to be now for the best sports talk, and it's free, yo. Cranky Live will be your guiding light by keeping you informed both day and night. Cranky Live, tell them. Cranky Live, heed them. Cranky Live, want them. Cranky Live. From the courts to the field, we'll never lose because Cranky has the hottest news. With expert analysis, we break it down. Our in-depth coverage is best in town. Cranky Live, tell them. Cranky Live, heed them. Cranky Live, want them. Cranky Live. Cranky Live, where the sports is spicy and where we keep the discussion lively. Cranky Live, get to know the name because Cranky analysis is never lame. Cranky Live, give me my Cranky Live. I want my Cranky Live. Must have my Cranky Live. Whether it's football or track and field, you know Cranky is at the wheel. So join the journey through victory and defeat and subscribe and don't miss a beat of Cranky Live. Tell them, Cranky Live. Heed them, Cranky Live. Want them, Cranky Live. If you're from England or USA, from Kingston or Bombay, from Kenya or Canada, Lagos or Havana. Visit Cranky Live. Tune into Cranky Live. Like up Cranky Live. Subscribe to Cranky Live. Cranky Live. Coming to you on weekdays. Cranky Live sometimes on Sundays. Pull up a chair and take a seat because Cranky will always bring the heat. Cranky Live. Me say fi tell them Cranky Live. Me say fi heed them Cranky Live. On them Cranky Live. Cranky Live will be around. Cranky Live is the best in town. Me say fi heed them. Me say fi want them. Me say fi heed them. Want them, heed them, want them. Cranky Live. Cranky Live. Heed them, want them, heed them, want them. Cranky Live. Cranky Live. Heed them, want them, heed them, want them, heed them, want them. Cranky Live. Cranky Live. Cranky. Heed them, want them, heed them, want them. Heed, want, heed them.